this is Noodle, and welcome to the very first edition of Inside the Mind of a Pro Player, in a series which I interview great players in the community and pick their minds. And today I am interviewing Daskro. You may know him from Squad Up series with Level Cap and guys like Rival X Factor, and he is more known for being the voice of Battlefield. What I mean by that is the competitive world. Daskro spends hours and hours putting together competitive Battlefield gameplay, commentating on that gameplay, and posting it on his channel. And for those of you not familiar with the original video I made about this series, all the proceeds from this video are being donated to the MDA. I won't explain the full story. I will put the link to the original video about this series. So click on that if you want to see why all the proceeds are being donated to the MDA, the Muscular Dystrophy Association. This will be a two-part series. The first part, we're going to get to know Daskro a bit. We're going to go into his life a little bit, how he games, how he got started gaming, and about the guns Daskro likes to play with and likes to make comparison videos about. And in the second video, which I will post tomorrow, we're going to talk about his competitive side, how he commentates, why he commentates, and what he thinks about the competitive world in Battlefield 4. Without further ado, I present to you Daskro. Hey Daskro, thanks for taking the time for this interview today. Let's start off a bit by getting to know you. How long have you been gaming?
Well, I started gaming probably when I was a small child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, with an old school NES. My younger brother and I, who we'd play for hours on end, and eventually we kept on playing, going to different consoles. We eventually got a PC, began PC gaming like crazy when we were around 11 or 12 years old. And not many people had PCs back then, but we were lucky enough to have one, and then we got two, and we started a little sort of a LAN party at our house every day. My brother and I would play each other, old school Quake 1, Quake 2, eventually Half-Life, Counter-Strike, and we kept on playing, keep on competing against one another, and I've been doing it ever since. It's been, wow, it's almost been, probably been, I don't know, 22, 23 years of gaming of sorts.
That's cool. So what games have you played in total since you started gaming?
Oh, that's a hard question. It's
it's
hard to count. I mean,
yeah.
It's the ones that I've mentioned previously, but by and large, the ones that I've done for the last 10 years have been the Battlefield franchise. I've been playing every iteration of Battlefield on PC since Battlefield 1942, and it's a series that I really enjoy and really can't find much of an alternative to it, because in the end, what makes Battlefield so amazing is this idea that you have this air, land, and infantry dynamic, where you have vehicles in the air, vehicles in the ground, you have infantry, you have this rock, paper, scissors philosophy designed into the gameplay mechanics. And when I think of games that did that before Battlefield, I think of games like Tribes 1, Tribes 2. Sure, there was a Tribes game that came out recently, last 2 or 3 years. It wasn't that successful. But in my mind, Battlefield sort of took some of the best elements what Tribes had to represent and brought it to a very different angle, sort of like what Call of Duty did to first-person shooter games, in the sense of taking a futuristic shooter like a Quake 2 and bringing it more towards a greater level of authenticity.
So we know Battlefield is basically like your specialist now. Everyone pretty much knows you as the voice of Battlefield. What's your specialty in-game? What exactly do you like to do when you play Battlefield yourself and you're not behind the green screen or in front of the green screen?
Well, I'll tell you that for my first, nearly 8-9 years of playing Battlefield, I was almost exclusively playing in competitive Battlefield games, which is organized scrims, organized matches, and just like in a game of football, American football, you have different roles depending on what your position is. And my role has always been about playing tanks. I've always been the tank. It's what I have practiced for the last 8, 9 years mostly. I can do infantry. I'm not that great at infantry, but in vehicles, that's always been my forte. It's always been ground vehicles. Back from Battlefield 1942, playing in the Sherman tank or playing in the Panzer tank. I love the idea of being in these light tanks that were super fast, and it required a sort of a skill set or finesse in being able to hit other tanks at long distances, taking in consideration the bullet drop, taking in consideration the trajectories of each of the given vehicles and their movements relative to one another. There's something really enticing about that. And in Battlefield 4, I do the same thing. So I love playing Goldman Railway. I love having all those tanks in battle and fighting it out, because that's what I'm used to. That's what I like about it. And when I'm playing in domination servers or I'm playing in other infantry-only servers, I just don't feel the same way. It's not Battlefield.
That sounds good. I think we both share that specific genre of Battlefield. Along with being a gamer, a lot of us know you as the gun guy too. You're the gun guy of Battlefield. What inspired you to do that series where you compare the guns to the Battlefield in-game guns?
Well, I think in order to understand why I wanted to do the series, you have to understand why I got into gun collecting in the first place. There's a number of people, most people, the story for most in terms of how they've gotten into shooting or gun collecting was that they had an uncle or a grandfather or their dad who got them into shooting, be it hunting wild game or just collecting, or even it's a relative's war trophy that was brought forward and inspired from a sense of history, the desire to want to collect and other things around those lines. For me, while my family had guns, we wasn't an emphasis. We didn't go hunting. We didn't go shooting. I knew that they existed in a gun safe, but that was about the end of it. And when I got into college, so take in mind when I got into college, Battlefield 2 was just coming out, and I was putting a lot of my time in Battlefield 2. I was playing engineer class, and when playing engineer class, the gun that you got was one of the shotguns. Depending on whether you're using US or China or Russia, you got an 870, or you got the Chinese version of an 870, a pump-action shotgun, or you got a Sega 12. And I thought it would be so cool if I had a real-life Sega 12. And I started doing some research, because I have a personality where I start to get an interest in something. I begin to almost obsessively research it and look into it. And so let me give you an example. Just today, I was thinking to myself, I had seen an article about a day or two ago about an old Russian T-34 tank found in a bog in one of the Eastern Bloc countries.
Goodbye, wallet.
Yeah, and so I was thinking about this when I was waking up, and so I spent like 30 minutes this morning, researching, going to the various importer websites and seeing what T-34 tanks were for sale to be imported in the United States. And there's a handful of them. They're all pretty expensive, depending on what condition you want to do. But I love going down that route and sort of investigating that kind of thing and trying to understand it. And so in this specific instance, it was $30,000-$40,000 to get a really shitty beat up T-34 that would require another $20,000-$30,000 in restoration easy. Now, I'm not a tank collector in real life, but I love researching those things. It's just a lot of fun.
And, yeah, that's good. That's pretty cool.
And so back to the gun stuff, I looked into it, and take in mind, around this time when this was taking place, 2005, 2006, this was during right after the assault weapons ban in the United States, and gun collecting was still a bit of an obscurity, let alone gun collecting as it related to guns that fell under the then expired assault weapons ban law. And the Sega 12 was one of those guns that was really an obscure gun, but also extremely inexpensive. Sega 12 that I bought, when I bought it, it was $350 for a semi-automatic magazine-fed shotgun.
That is pretty cheap for a Sega, I will admit, at this moment.
And today, they're a whole lot more expensive than that. But that was how much they cost then. I bought it purely as a novelty. I really wasn't into guns at all. I just thought it'd be a cool thing to have. And as I, shot it and did other things around those lines, I began going to shooting ranges more. I began going on more gun forums and say, well, how about an AR-15? How about a G3 clone? And it kept on growing to the point where I had a lot of guns from both various Battlefield games, but also just for my own personal interest. There's more obscure games out there or guns out there, excuse me, that where there's no guns or no games that include them. So, for instance, years later, I have an extensive collection of Yugoslavian Kalashnikovs. You don't see Yugoslavian Kalashnikovs in games unless it's literally a game about the Balkan Wars, which I don't think exist, but you get the idea. And so I got all these guns, and to the point where I actually dawned on me that when BC2 came out, and then when BF3 came out, I did some counting and realized that I had at least 30 or 40% of the guns by and large, or variants of those guns that I could speak to it.
It's not a bad ratio.
And said, well, I said, well, okay, well, why don't I just do some gun comparisons? Because I already have a bunch of footage of me shooting the guns. I feel like I have a lot more knowledge about these guns relative to the typical gamer, especially those that just do gun reviews and they're just reading a stat from a Wikipedia page. They don't know what that means. And I'm not trying to actually diss anyone who does this stuff, but it's a very different thing to read something on the internet than it is to actually experience it and feel it and understand the qualitative differences between the two in terms of any kind of dynamic. And that I thought that needed to be added into it. That's what got me interested in doing that. And more recently, I haven't been doing as many as I'd like to, and that has less to do with me going out to the shooting range and more with me just not having enough time to get it done. I try to put goals to myself where I'll make a tweet out and say, hey, I'm going to put out this video of this new gun comparison, and I kind of do that to try to I do it to give people get some hype going that the video is coming. But what I really do it for is not about that. I really do it to try to put an artificial deadline so I get them done.
So pressure on yourself.
It really is pressure on myself because I don't have a lot of time and to do these things. I have even less time as my 9-to-5 job is sort of ramped up in terms of time commitment. But what's interesting to think about is that in the month of July and August of last year, I recorded enough gun footage to do probably a half a dozen, if not maybe 10 gun comparison videos.
So there's going to be more of these videos coming, I assume.
Oh, I have all the footage. It's all there.
That's good to hear.
But it's getting all the game footage, and then it's doing the narration, and then cutting it and mixing it and editing it. It takes a lot of time, even though we're talking about like a sub 3 or 4 minute long video.
I agree with you 100% there. It takes some time to edit these videos.
And while I like the end result of making these of producing these videos and adding some value to people's experiences that they have when watching my videos, a lot of times doing those kind of videos is not that fun. It really isn't. I mean, it used to be sort of fun for me. It's gotten less fun now, and I think when you look at least when you look at how I spend my time and how I do my videos, there's a lot of people that are subscribed to my channel that are subscribed exclusively for the gun videos. And while I appreciate them subscribing to my channel, a vast majority of my content is not gun videos. It's actually the competitive Battlefield or Battlefield esports. I actually get a whole lot more pleasure producing those kind of videos. I think this is a lot more fun because when I'm producing them and experience them, I can see the action and savor it. I can actually feel like that I'm a part of it, almost like when you're at a sports stadium and you're seeing your favorite sports team play. You see them score, and the crowd goes wild. That's the kind of experience that I love to be able to do and share with others, and which is why one of the reasons that I focus so much on that topic as opposed to the gun stuff.
Okay, real quick here before we jump into other stuff. The age-old rifle debate. Who made the better gun? Mikhail Kalashnikov or Eugene Stoner? Real quick. This will end the debate, Daskro, forever.
It will end the debate
forever. You will do it.
Well, I will tell you that I own a few Eugene Stoner rifles. I own a shit ton of Kalashnikov rifles.
I've seen your photos. You definitely have a wall of Kalashnikovs.
And so I have to say Kalashnikov did a better job, but I'll tell you, so Kalashnikov basically has three main iterations of the Kalashnikov, as well as a number of derivatives. But he also has the RPD, which and that was sort of the not the RPD, the PKM, pardon me, that he also worked on the design on. Eugene Stoner, on the other hand, has a number of additional guns that he's worked on over over his life. And so the number of unique designs that Eugene Stoner has, I think he has the advantage of. But I think the Kalashnikov design and the iterations of it will stand the test of time more so than anything that Eugene ever put out. I'm not saying Eugene like I know him on a first name basis, but he did things like the AR-15, the AR-18, the Stoner 63, and the AR-10. You're talking about a lot of guns, some direct impingement, some short stroke gas piston system, some extremely modular than others, that were all very unique guns that to a certain extent were ahead of their time. The Stoner 63, in my opinion, was one of the most innovative guns, but because the M16 was in such full force when the Stoner 63 was pushed forward, it never got never was embraced the same way that the M16 was.
I'll agree with you there. You really can't beat the reliability of a Kalashnikov.
The reliability is good. I think what really makes me so interested in is that from a production standpoint, it's a very simple gun to put together and to assemble and to iterate upon. And I like that concept, that it really was. When we think of the Sherman tank as the tank that won World War II for the U.S., the closest equivalent to that is not the T-34. To me, it's a Kalashnikov, because it's a very simplistic design, very simplistic production in huge volume.
I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching this video. Please like and share this video. Share this thing on Reddit. Share this thing on Facebook, on Twitter. Let's get Daskro some supporters. Let's get him some more subscribers. This guy deserves more subscribers than he has. If there's anybody in this community who deserves to have 100,000+ subscribers, it's Daskro. For all the work he puts into it, he does a fantastic job with all the competitive stuff, and we will get into that tomorrow with the second part of this interview. But until next time, guys, my name is Noodle, and always remember, use your noodle.